Carney admits Trump talked about Canada becoming 51st state during phone call last month. During the media availability, Carney seemed irritated by the reporter's repeated questions. Of course, guys, Mark Carney always gets irritated every time he's confronted on his lies, inconsistencies, and complete lack of transparency. This one, though, is especially egregious, considering that Mark Carney has made this issue the centerpiece of his campaign, and at this point, some people have already gone out to vote for him in the advance polls. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Jonny Says So, episode 38. Mark Carney is caught in yet another lie, this time regarding his phone call with President Donald Trump and whether or not he respects Canadian sovereignty. But before we dive right into it, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That way you could be notified of every time I put out new content. Now, Carney has made this the central issue of his campaign. The question of Donald Trump's tariffs and who would be the best prime minister to deal with it. Now, this phone call was a major part of shaping that narrative. Mark Carney wanted to give the illusion that everything was under control and that Donald Trump respects him as a leader and that the 51st state talk would cease. But as we've seen just today, Donald Trump has continued the 51st state rhetoric. He does not respect Mark Carney, and now Mark Carney has been caught outright lying about it for his own political gain. Carney stood at a podium, looked Canadians in the eye, and lied. He said that President Trump respected Canada's sovereignty on their phone call. Nothing could be further from the truth.
The President respected Canada's sovereignty today, both in his private and public comments.
Sources are telling Radio Canada that Trump talked to Carney about Canada becoming the 51st state. That is something we did not hear from the Prime Minister's office after Trump and Carney spoke on March 28th.
The President respected Canada's sovereignty today, both in his private and public comments.
Yeah, those two things are completely incompatible with one another. When Mark Carney came out and said that he had a cordial phone call with the President of the United States and that he respected our sovereignty, it's pretty much implied that he did not talk about the 51st state. He did not call him Governor Carney. It's completely deceptive, and a lot of people, like, the advance polls have already happened. So a lot of people, as misguided as they are, probably went out to vote for Mark Carney based on their belief that he is in the position to protect us from Donald Trump, as if that is the problem with Canada. Now, I want to say that if you are very concerned with Canadian sovereignty and you base your opinion on and your vote on who is going to govern this country based on your feelings about the president of another country, you have already surrendered your sovereignty. Now, that National Post article that I brought up in the beginning mentioned Mark Carney getting irritated with reporters. So I want to show you exactly what they were talking about. Mark Carney gets caught with inconsistencies on the claims he has made with Canada regarding his conversations with President Trump, and is bluntly asked, "Are you being truthful?"
And what's at stake in this election is how well we come together as a country for those difficult discussions with the Americans.
March 28th, did President Trump bring up the idea of Canada becoming the 51st state during that call with you?
As I just said, the President brings this up all the time. He brought it up yesterday, he's brought it up before. There's a difference between the conversation that was...
So look at how dismissive he is of this right off the bat. Now he's comfortable with just brushing it off and saying, well, look, the president says this all the time. Yeah, we know. He says it all the time. How seriously you choose to take it is up to you.
Held between leaders of government, which was this conversation, and a discussion that led directly to an agreement that as sovereign countries we would have negotiations about our partnership following the election on Monday.
Now that's a word salad and a half. He's trying to say that there's a difference between a phone call between leaders and the result of that phone call. There's no difference here. You are the Prime Minister of Canada talking to the President of the United States.
That's what the President and I agreed. That's what both of us reported back. And that's what I'm ready to do. And what's at stake in this election is how well we come together as a country for those difficult discussions with the Americans. And to be clear, I have said well before that call, and virtually every time that I've spoken since that call, that President Trump, the Americans, want to break us so they can own us. Those aren't just words. That's what's at risk. That's why we have to build Canada strong. That's why we have to go hard. That's why we have to negotiate properly. That's not why we have to build outside options.
Okay, now he is saying negotiate properly. I'd like to remind you that in between that phone call and now, Mark Carney has repeatedly said that our trade relationship and military alliance with the United States is over. These two beliefs can't be held simultaneously. You have to pick a lane, Mark.
That's why we have the plan that we do.
I asked you about this on March 28th after the call, and you said that President Trump respected Canada's sovereignty both privately and in his public conversations.
He did.
Were you being truthful?
He absolutely did. He absolutely did. Look, the President has certain things in his mind that he reverts back to all the time. But treated me as the Prime Minister, not as something else. I'm not even going to say the word he used to use about my predecessor. Treated me as the
I would like to know what that word is. I don't even want to tell you the word that he used to describe his predecessor, Justin Trudeau. Oh man, could you guys imagine Trump on the phone, just like off the cuff, off camera, talking about Justin Trudeau? Oh man, I almost want to say let me know down in the comments what you think that word was, but I don't want my channel to get nuked, so we better not.
The Prime Minister. We had discussions as sovereign nations. We agreed as sovereign nations that these negotiations will begin after the election on Monday. And that is how it was reported back, and that's absolutely accurate. So that's the treatment. Now, look, the President says lots of things, but the essence of the discussion and where we moved the conversation to was exactly what I said. Treated us with respect as a sovereign nation. We have these negotiations coming, and that's, just to be clear, that is what's at stake. Both things are.
So, on one hand, he's brushing it off and saying, the president says a lot of things. 51st state, it doesn't matter whether he said it to me or not. It doesn't matter if, he respects me. Because clearly, you could tell by his body language that he sees this as a non-issue. And he's also trying to say that this is like a huge existential threat. This guy, man, can't make heads or tails of him. He's so inconsistent, and he's very comfortable lying to you.
Are true. The desire of the Americans and the President to own us, those aren't just words. That's a desire. And the ability of Canada to stand strong, build our own, control our destiny, and in that context, as a sovereign nation, have those discussions.
Now, Pierre Poilievre and Jagmeet Singh have wasted no time in criticizing Mark here for his obvious lies, but I have to hand it to the leader of the Bloc Québécois. I think he has the best response to this by far. Yves-François Blanchet accuses Mark Carney of exaggerating his call with President Trump for show. And man, he really tells it like it is here. This is great.
I seem to recall that you had initially described that phone call between Mr. Trump and Mr. Carney as somewhat positive. What's your reaction now that you understand that Mr. Carney may not have disclosed everything from the call, that Donald Trump did in fact refer to the 51st state threats again?
It seems more and more to have been a stunt. He wanted to make a statement. I am Mark Carney. I'm the best of them all. I'm a great negotiator. I have managed crisis in the past. I would change the world. Trust me. And it appears that it never happened. That the call was not what has been described afterwards. That there was no agreement, no support for Canada's sovereignty, no beginning for a deal, just the show of a man who wanted to pretend something which appears today not to be true. I believe many people in Canada and in Quebec will say, what the hell is that? And if that is not true, what else is not true?
Absolutely spot on. If he's willing to lie to you about this, just imagine what else he's willing to lie and has already lied to you about. And it's absolutely crazy to me that people have already gone out to vote for Mark Carney in the advance polls, thinking that he had somehow gotten through to Donald Trump or changed his mind about the 51st state thing. I mean, guys, if Mark Carney wins this election, Donald Trump is going to be calling him Governor Carney within 24 hours. And when Pierre Poilievre wins, I don't expect anything different. We're going to hear a lot of jokes about Governor Pierre. And that's my show for today, guys. Make sure you smash the like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That way you'll be notified every time I put out new content. And I'd like to announce that I am going to be covering the election live on this channel, doing my very first live stream, which I'm really excited about, and I hope to see all of you in the chat. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.